one. Let's rock!
I enjoy fighting games. I like their depth, I like the competition, and I like the characters, style, and music of many franchises. It's a great genre that can feel extremely rewarding if you have the time and will to practice, learn, and climb the online ranks. But as much as I love and respect them, the genre suffers from a frustratingly high number of barriers that stop new players from joining in, especially with games that are already on their second, third, or even fourth year. A lot of games give basic tutorials, but many of them don't teach you anything beyond surface-level mechanics and techniques. You still end up needing to rely on third-party or fan-made resources to teach you important things. Some games don't give you all the information you need on how your character functions, like frame data. And then there's netcode, which has been a hot-button topic in the community for a while now, but made even more important once the pandemic started and every in-person event had to be cancelled and replaced by online tournaments. It took an embarrassingly long time to get the big Japanese fighting game developers to acknowledge the importance of rollback, only for a couple of them to slap together their own mediocre rollback solutions that barely work. After Killer Instinct showed everyone how it was supposed to be done, it took 4 years for a big Japanese fighting game developer to launch a game with properly functioning rollback. Sadly, that game was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and it took 4 years after that for it to happen again with the upcoming Guilty Gear Strive. But, beyond all that, there's another barrier that isn't so often discussed: price. The actual amount of money you need to spend in order to jump into a game that's already been out for a few years. You might think this isn't that big of a deal, because games eventually lower in price as time passes anyway, right? But the problem here is that basically every fighting game in existence now runs on a season pass model. Every year a new season begins, and a few new characters, stages, and costumes are included with them. And they're usually not all that cheap, running anywhere from $20 to $40 per pass, and those passes typically aren't on sale as often as the base game. If you do the math, you can see how buying a game can be very expensive if you're trying to hop in and be competitive 3 or 4 years in. I got to thinking about this topic when I saw a tweet from longtime commentator James Chen bringing up how a game can alleviate this price issue by releasing periodic, updated bundles and editions every 2 years or so to keep this cost barrier low. And he's right. Some developers do a very good job with this, particularly Capcom and NetherRealm. But what about the companies that don't do this? What popular games are ignoring the idea of these updated editions and inadvertently keeping the price of entry high? The first game that popped into my mind was Tekken 7. It's going to turn 4 years old this year, and there hasn't been a single new edition of the game released at all within that time period. Since the game's launch in June 2017, Tekken 7 has gotten 15 new DLC characters and 8 DLC stages across 4 seasons. And, in a display of grotesque greediness, a frame data display in training mode that you have to pay for. It should go without saying, people weren't too happy about being charged for a basic feature that's free in every other game it's in. So, what's the pricing situation look like for Tekken 7 since it doesn't have an updated bundle to get? Well, a quick look on Steam says the base game is normally $40. However, there's the Ultimate Edition for $90, and you would think that includes everything, right? Well, no, it doesn't. Ultimate Edition only has Season 1 and 2 content, so you'd still need to buy Seasons 3 and 4 separately. And you only save $5 when buying the Ultimate Edition anyway. Regardless, it costs another $25 for Season Pass 3 and $15 for Season Pass 4. So, if we do the math and add up Ultimate Edition plus Seasons 3 and 4, we come out to a grand total of $130. That's the cost to buy Tekken 7 right now if you truly intend to be fully competitive and have access to all available important content. $130 to hop into a 4-year-old game only to get your ass beat for weeks on end by people who have been playing for much longer than you. Doesn't sound like a very reasonable price for that experience. Matter of fact, if Bandai Namco were to release a truly complete edition that has all 4 seasons and charged $60 for it, You would still have saved money if you bought the vanilla game for full price back in 2017 and then waited to get this. That's how out of whack Tekken 7's pricing is. Another game that's guilty of this is Dragon Ball FighterZ. When it's not on sale, it's still at $60. You have the option to get the Fighters Edition, which includes the Season 1 DLC Character Pass, but you don't save any money. The Season 1 Fighters Pass costs $35 and includes 8 characters. The second Fighters Pass includes 6 characters and costs $25. The third and supposedly final pass costs $20 and includes 5 characters. There are other pieces of non-crucial DLC such as stamps, music, and commentary voices, but they're not really important, so we'll ignore them. With everything added up, if you buy Dragon Ball FighterZ and all character DLC, while none of it is on sale, you'll be spending $140. $140 for a 3-year-old game full of people who are likely already good enough to not even let you play when you fight them online. Once again, if Bandai Namco simply released a $60 upgraded edition that included everything, it would save new players a huge amount of money. But as it stands, if you want to jump into the game now and be competitive, you're going to have to spend more than twice the amount of money you would for a new game, only to fight experienced players who could probably fuck you up with 20-second long combos. Now that I think about it, Soul Calibur 6 is also guilty of this too. $60 base game and 2 season passes that cost $30 and $34 respectively, for a total of $124 for this 2.5-year-old game. The deluxe edition comes with a Season 1 pass but doesn't offer any discount. What the hell is Bandai Namco's problem? Why are they like this? In comparison, Capcom typically releases updated editions including prior new content every 2 years. Street Fighter V launched in February 2016. Then Seasons 1 and 2 continued like normal. Then in early 2018, Arcade Edition came out, which included the content of those 2 seasons. After that, Seasons 3 and 4 went on, and in early 2020, Champion Edition was released, which featured content from all 4 seasons. You can buy Champion Edition right now for as low as $25 from various retailers or digital storefronts. $25 to jump into a 5-year-old game and get access to 4 years worth of new characters and stages. That's a fantastic deal. However, Season 5 is still ongoing, and the character pass for it is an additional $25. But that total is still less than half of what those other games cost. NetherRealm does the exact same with Mortal Kombat and Injustice. It goes without saying at this point, but the companies who aren't offering these updated editions are just trying to squeeze money out of you. And for what? So you can get your shit rocked by people who have been playing regularly for the last 2 to 4 years? Trying to catch up to them is already going to be enough of an upward climb. Why impose a huge monetary barrier on top of that? Additionally, all the mentioned games that don't offer new editions don't have proper rollback netcode either. So you're also paying a huge premium for a mediocre online experience, regardless of how quickly you learn to play. This whole discussion makes me wonder if fighting games can adopt different monetization methods. There's been some experimentation already to varying levels of success. Killer Instinct launched with a free-to-play model, allowing access to all game modes and only one playable character that rotated to a different one on a regular basis. But you could just buy them all whenever you wished. This model proved to be fairly successful, and would go on to inspire other games to try it, including Dead or Alive 5 and 6 and Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, all of which have free-to-play versions offering only basic gameplay modes excluding the story, and a selection of a few free fighters that cycle periodically. Then you have Fantasy Strike, which is entirely free-to-play with all characters accessible and both online and offline versus modes, plus training. When you buy the core pack for $20, you only get single-player content. So you don't even need to spend a dime if you want to just jump into netplay and be competitive. Then you have some fighting games that are monetized normally, but they still allow players to try out new characters in training mode without buying them. Brawlhalla does this, and Rivals of Aether used to before it decided to just give everyone all DLC characters for free with the Definitive Edition release. This is an extremely pro-consumer way to let everyone try out new fighters. but it's so pro-consumer it actually scares the big companies away from trying it, because granting limited access to DLC might have a greater chance of convincing players to not buy it than to buy it. It's why we don't see game demos as often as we used to. They're more likely to dissuade you from purchasing a game, and sometimes that's in spite of the final product looking and functioning better than the demo people played. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Getting back to the original topic here, it's probably just best for everyone to release an updated edition every year or two for a small discount. You shouldn't be paying more to play an old game. That's ass backwards. You shouldn't be paying more to get your ass kicked by people who have already been playing for years now, and on delay-based netcode no less. As much as I enjoy fighting games, the genre is guilty of having so many needless barriers that make jumping into any game at almost any time a monumental chore. If it's not the price, then it's the bad netcode. If it's not the bad netcode, then it's the weird lobbies and matchmaking. If it's not the lobbies or matchmaking, then it's the lack of single-player content. If it's not the lack of single-player content, then it's the lack of learning material in the actual game, etc., etc. Hopefully, as players become more vocal, more of these issues will be addressed. But considering how old the genre is, it's pretty aggravating that these problems continue to persist at all. Still, we gotta take things one step at a time. After all, we've just now barely gotten stubborn Japanese devs to seriously look at rollback. This concludes my thoughts on the price of getting into fighting games late. Despite the issues I've gone over, I'm still pretty hopeful for the near future of the genre, especially with the increased focus on better netcode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.